Welcome, gentle folks, to the long-awaited Elina Fairytopia costume tutorial. I spent 5 months of my life groveling over this to almost ruin the entire thing, but don't let me get ahead of myself, so get comfortable and join me beyond the rainbow.
Okay, I'm done. Let's get into it.
Surprisingly, this entire project was not the result of a carefully constructed plan, but by some chance and impulsivity of the moment, whilst strolling through what remained of Joanne's, at which I visited for one last hurrah and to purchase something entirely unrelated, I was bewitched body and soul by a beam of nostalgia from my childhood which promised a glint of hope for what remained of my shattered and somewhat doomed future. It was this moment the decision was made, and I steadily plodded through Joanne's for at least 2 hours, comparing fabrics, examining textures, matching colors, and battling my indecisiveness. Thanks to my mother's patience and the moral support of my sister, whom I kept on the phone for what should have been a paid time service, I finally had my fabrics.
For the fabrics, I used a cotton polyester blend. I mainly chose it because of how soft it was. As for the lining, I used this. They were practically the same shade, so I was very happy about that. For the shoes, I used this, for no other reason than I thought the color was pretty. However, to keep this as brief as possible, the shoes will be a separate video. I'm keeping this bag. This is the best bodice I have ever created. It's not horrible for something that I have made. I hate using patterns, so oftentimes I will make my own. However, I also hate using a measuring tape. I have been really working on incorporating measuring tape. There's nothing more embarrassing than going to the cutting station in Joann's and trying to figure out how much fabric you need for a very swooshy, voluminous skirt. I can't express how embarrassed I was to be standing there like a complete idiot. I should know this, but I do hate measuring tapes. Rita Skeeter is listening into my conversation. Down the toilet you go.
This is one of those singular occurrence pieces that I have tried many a time to replicate, without much success. I made it 4 years ago when I tried to make my very first Barbie dress. I never ended up putting the rest together though, and I'm not even sure it's recognizable. In any case, I thought it would be different this time, but inevitably, trying to recreate this non-fungible object only produced the same result. So I chose a different pattern. Self-made, by the way. It's relatively reliable, as I've used it for most of my Barbie dresses. There was also another reason I chose this pattern in particular, so let me show you. If you look at where Elina's bodice meets the skirt, it comes below her hip line. This is very common for most Barbie dresses, so obviously it was a detail I had to follow. But just choose a bodice pattern that is most comfortable for you. The bodice was 3 layers, the pink being on the outside, the center was an off-white cotton, and the inside was some floral cotton that I actually didn't have enough of. So for the 2 back panels, I used the same off-white. I wasn't able to use my sewing machine for quite some time because the cord practically disconnected from the foot, at which I was absolutely devastated and thought it was the end of the world. But my dad offered to fix it, and he did indeed. I don't know what kind of magic he used, but I wanted to appreciate his handiwork. Then I just sewed up all those panels on my rejuvenated sewing machine. It actually turned out pretty good. Yes, I was surprised. Then I just pinned the waist stays to the inside of the bodice. It was supposed to be a soft elastic band, but I switched it out for a pink ribbon. I don't know why I did that because the elastic band was way more comfortable.
Here's where I come to a crossroad. A zipper is the thing I always fall back on. Do I think it looks like something a fairy would have as a closure? No. But then we have to lace it back. But do I want to poke holes in the back of this? No. There are a few different methods I could use. Zipper's off. Too big. I measured everything. I do hate measuring tape.
I paused on the bodice because I needed to think about what I was going to do for the back closure, so I started making the binds for the front of the bodice. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing here. I didn't use a measuring tape, I'll be honest. I had a picture of Elina on my phone in front of me, and I used my hands in proportion to her hands, measured it against my bodice, and that's how I did it. And I'm so sorry, I know that's probably very confusing.
And now I'm going to work on the petals on her skirt petals. Her rose petal skirt. When in doubt, trace it out.
Finally, learning from my mistake by applying use of a tape measure. Watching the movie several times over and pausing at every angle possible, I could see that her skirt was 3 layers. She seems to have 5 petals on the first and second layer, and about 3 to 4 on the third. Now, I went over this again and again and again until I couldn't do it anymore because it was preventing me from actually taking action. Sometimes it does look like she has a lot more. I just chose to go with 14, but I could be very wrong in that, so you might want to do your own counting. I went into this with no intention of painting anything, but the more I studied her costume, the more I knew I needed to add a lot of details in order to make it look anything like the movie counterpart. Essentially, I was painting a rose. I recommend looking up rose painting tutorials, and I also looked at flowers outside to get some inspiration of how to accomplish those petal details. My plan was, instead of putting the zip tie between the bodice layers, I would use it to attach the vines on. So I just measured how long I wanted it to be, and I just matched those vine pieces according to its length. I think I did 2 different cutouts for the vine pieces, because the first one I think I made too small. Some of the pieces were crooked, so I ended up cutting them out again, but we'll get to that later. It's still basically the same. Try saying polypropylene fast 10 times over. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it the lining. So this was the pink fabric, felt, and lining. And then I just went around the edges of all 14 of those petals with fire.
She has these sort of little leaves around the top of the petal skirt. I cut a bunch out with felt. I didn't have enough of the other pink fabric that I got from Joann's, so I'm using this. I've had for years. It kind of matches. It's a little bit on the darker side, but it's not that bad. Thinking I'll do a zigzag stitch around the edge, and then a stitch down the center will kind of make it look like a quilt. I might just try one.
So in regards to the leaves, I counted 12 of them. Again, I went over this several times. It is indeed 12, but I'm still not sure. I'm doubting myself as I say that. And it's the same layering technique I used on the vines. And one more thing I layered on top of the leaf was a piece of that sparkly tulle. After I sewed all 12 of those leaves together, I decided to paint them. Now it was time to get back to the bodice. At this point, I had decided that I wanted to do a lace-up back. So I needed to add some zip ties to stable it so that when I pull the ribbon in the back, it wouldn't scrunch up and lose its shape. So I just measured them along the back, and I cut them and used a file to take down the sharpness of the edge, and then I folded that hem down. And then I just hand sewed the back of it. And then I just did a bit of testing with how I wanted the ribbons to be in the back.
It does fit, it's just a little roomy. I can't really explain it. I haven't got the words.
After finding my ribbon lace-up style of choice, which I found off of Pinterest, I began to pin that down, still testing between different ribbons. Unfortunately for me, I chose the wrong base ribbon to loop through, but that is a mistake that we shall come to later. So then it was time to sew up those shafts on the side on my So then it was time to sew up those shafts on my machine. There was a lot of S's. And then I just trimmed down the excess of those zip ties and folded the hem over them. And I'm pretty sure I hand sew that later on.
I hope this works. I'm debating how I want to snazz up the outside. I could put some of that sparkly tulle over it. Not sure how I like that though. In the picture of Elina. Mostly what I see are white sparkles, but sometimes she has gold sparkles and sometimes she has pink sparkles. So it's like, why not just combine it all into one cohesive kind of sparkle bomb? Why not? Brain dead moment, what am I doing?
With my ribbon of choice, I pinned that down, and then it was time to paint the bodice.
This one looks a little wonky.
That's okay. So I did all of these in about 3 days. There's 14 of them. And now what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the tulle. It's the thing about tulle, I never know which is front and which is back. This is basically what I'm going for. With all of the pieces I did previously, I would look at them and I'd be like, this looks so bad.
No, I have to scrap it. I can't do this anymore. It looks awful.
And I just kept saying, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. Take your time. It's okay if you need to step back and think about things, but don't stop working on it because you don't think you're capable. That's the difference. That is why most of my costumes are not done. I have always wished that I could make a project in one day. All this stuff that I do here, I would love to just have it done in one day. Is that realistic? No, not at all. I wanted this to be rather intellectual and informative, but unfortunately, I think the whole thing is just going to be very discombobulated. I'm gonna cut this out, and then I think I'm gonna go to bed, because before I go to bed every night, I read a chapter of The Hunger Games. So I got a comment on my TikTok video. Somebody suggested using wires for the leaf vine structure. I was thinking about that because I was like, you know, there's no way. It's literally already stitched. That launched my brain into a different idea, and I was trying to figure out how to get these. They don't really sit in the position I want them to. So I did a test. It's perfect. And now I can just bend it the way that I want. I wish the same method worked. Ow! Yeah, it doesn't work with the leaves. It could work, but I don't think I want it to. Because here's the thing, I want to be able to sit down in it, and I don't want it to be stuck in the seated position. I want them to still move smoothly and drape dynamically as I move around. You know what I mean? Anyway, thank you. I love when I get suggestions on my TikTok. It might not always work in the way that it's suggested, but I always find a way to get a different idea of how to use that. And now we go back to the vines in the front of her bodice. I sewed all of those up on my machine, and I don't know how to explain what I'm doing here. Maybe I just don't want to. I did go back and forth quite a bit with the idea of using wire or zip ties for the vines on the front of her bodice. I ended up going with the zip ties, as it would certainly allow for mobility, but I did use wire for the top of the vines. Randomly took a break from the vines to sew up the ribbon on the back of that bodice. This wire has been in my family for as long as I can remember, ever since I was little. So I thought that I would just sew the wire on the back of the vine pieces, but I mean, it looked terrible. But then it dawned on me that I could just sew the wire inside the layers of this piece. So that's what I did. I had to take out some stitches, but I put the wire frame in, and then I just hand sewed that up and used a bit of fire on the edges. It is now that I am being given the suggestion to use EVA foam to make her vines, but you see, it's not like I haven't been doing something in that time. I've been making the vines while you guys are trying to think of ways for me to make it, so you might judge me, but I'm judging myself. Is it perfect? No, but it's my method. Think of this as new innovation.
I'm calling it a brain. I'm pretty sure it's where ideas come from.
For me, it's progress. That's what counts. I think it looks good. Compliment me. Tell me how good it looks. It looks good. I'm joking. No, I'm not joking. Because I'm the one who's seeing you do this day after day, so. These do remind me of bunny ears, though. Is it crooked?
Let's do it.
The next thing to do was just line up all those pieces of the vines on the zip tie and correctly measuring its height against my bodice. I don't know if it's an artist thing, but if you look at Elina's shoulders and then look at the distance between the top of the vine in comparison to her shoulders, you can kind of get an idea from that. And also the bottom vine piece to the top of where her skirt is. This was one of the most enjoyable parts, painting the vines. I had so much fun with this. I do want to mention this is not my first rodeo. I do have a background in art. Ever since I was little, I was drawing, painting, I did different art mediums. I never physically went to art class, but I took art classes at home because I was very shy and socially awkward, and I mean, I still am to that. This has nothing to do with it. And this is where things took a turn for the worst.
So I might have made a mistake. I probably should have cut out a tool bodice in the first place and sewn that on the machine like a responsible seamstress. Not that I'm claiming to be one. I didn't do that because I wanted to try a different method, and now I'm not really sure if I messed up. I thought I could use this to basically stick the tool on. I don't know why I decided to go with that idea. I think I just wanted to try it. It should not... Whatever. I did it, I'm judging myself very harshly. I'm not sure if I really screwed this up. It kind of dulled down the appearance of the sparkle. In all honesty, I'm ready to...
Snake of promise.
My emotional impulse is to rip the tool off, to scrape all of the sparkles off, and start over. Maybe that's a good idea, but I'm going to wait until it dries and then decide what to do from there. I wanted to finish it this weekend. Here is the problem. It all just rubs off. Oh my gosh, I made such a stupid mistake. I'm trying to convince myself that it's okay. It's a learning curve. Really trying to remain calm. What a waste of time. Don't be like me. Do your research.
Throughout this entire fail, what weighed heavily on my mind was how much I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And when I dug a little deeper, I discovered, well, I just didn't want to give up.
So let's pretend that never happened. And what I'm going to do is I have to clean up all of this. Did I do 14? No, I think I did 12. Yeah, I don't remember. There is a silver lining to all of this.
I didn't want to give up. I came this far. I'm literally making a Barbie costume. What is it that Barbie has taught us? Not to give up. So instead, I took a break to figure out how I was going to proceed.
So it's been a while. I'm sorry about that. I stitched some of the sparkly tulle over the entire thing. I wasn't too particular about this. I just did sort of like a runner stitch. I also put it on the back. The thing is, okay, so I don't mind imperfections in my costuming. It's taken me a very long time to understand that imperfections are okay. But there is a difference between imperfections and straight up stupid mistakes. Because I was lazy. Should have cut out a tool bodice in the first place. If I'm making a choice because I'm too lazy to make the better decision, I'm circling back and I'm gonna make the better decision.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
Anyway, I did that with pretty much all the pieces, overlaying the tulle, stitching around the side. You know, this one's not perfect, but it's fine. The imperfections would be my stitches aren't perfect. On the side here, you can see the layers. Whatever. I'm not going to a cosplay competition to have this judged because I would not win. You know, this is for me. And I don't know, hopefully for other people who just want to see how to make an Elina costume. I didn't want to make it too complicated, but I don't want to make it too simple. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't like to do that. I have always been the kind of person who uses what I have. I would go through the recycle bin and see if there were any weird things that I could use. That's what I started to do. And I was making Studio Ghibli and Star Wars costumes, and I would just look through the recycle bin. If my dad was throwing stuff out that he would use for work around the house, he would run it by me and see if I needed anything, and I still have stuff that I have saved from back then. Oh my gosh, I went through this phase. It's a long story. To sum it all, I'm so glad I didn't get rid of anything, because now I have been using it for everything that I make. But anyway, enough of me yapping. I've really been trying to figure out how I want to do the skirt. It's been throwing me for a loop, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gluing the tulle on top of the bodice.
To all the people over on my TikTok who suggested using Eline's fabric fusion glue, thank you so much. I cannot emphasize how much I appreciate all the help and suggestions I have gotten over there. I honestly don't know what I would have done.
Sometimes I get so caught up in my own head and being critical of all my work. I guess I don't appreciate how much I've done. Morning! You'll never guess what I'm gonna do right now. I've already watched Fairytopia 4, 5 times. Granted, I didn't always watch to the end.
Beyond the shores of Fairytopia lies an enchanted watery world. Hi there, it's me, Barbie. This magical undersea realm is filled
the best
with
Barbie
fabulous
movie out
creatures.
there. So I've been doing a lot of research on how to get the petals right. I found a few that I think will work. Could make a mini hoop skirt. Here's the thing, I don't want to. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I could just make a mini crinoline. Maybe that would work. There's a possibility. I'm willing to give it a go. If you look at Elina's skirt, there's layers to the petals. You can actually see the layers. That's what I'm going for.
To sum this up, I didn't want to be moving around and have a crinoline peeking out from underneath. There could possibly be a way to conceal it, but that idea didn't satisfy me. I wanted it to be just like the movies, so my solution was to use zip ties. I put 3 of them between the 2 pink layers of fabric. At this point, I just pinned them because I wanted to test it out and see how I liked it first.
Are you sick of me watching this yet?
Oh no, doesn't bother me at all. But recycle.
Now, for some reason, the process of me gluing the sparkles to the petals and the bodice is nowhere to be found. So, for the sake of my peace of mind, I am going to briefly explain. After my first attempt of Elmer's glue and water, which of course we saw did not work, I brought my troubles over to TikTok, and that is where I received some suggestions to use the Elina's Fabric Fusion. These are the items that you will need. Just be aware of what's underneath the petal because you don't want to get glue on something that's important. Anyways, I laid out the petal as flat as possible and added little dots or lines of the glue around the edges. I did this in increments as the glue dries pretty quickly. Then I took a sponge brush and spread the glue out, and then I just dumped the sparkles on, and then I took a flat object. I don't remember what I used, but it could be a piece of cardboard or a book, and I pressed it down. I did that around the edges of all 14 of them. I also used the same method on the bodice and the vines. That about sums up how I did it. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration.
I'm seriously wondering if this is actually slow and intentional, or if this is just like pure procrastination. I have too many ideas of how to do different aspects that I can't decide on one, and so I have to think about it for several days until I decide on which one I'm going to go with. So basically, I had no plan when going into this. So that's it. Yep, good talk. What belongs to you shall come to you. I don't know what that is, but I'll let you know if I don't want to do it anymore, but I need to.
Then the time had finally arrived to glue all those zip-tied petals together, and I just used hot glue for this.
I did it. And my corner is an absolute mess. Ignore the horsehair braid. Wait a second, are you kidding me? Did I miss one? Did I? Okay, no. Oh, thank you. I'm going to stop now. How is this working? It's like exactly what I was going for. I had this idea that this might possibly work, and it was like, well, what if it's a waste of time? I was like, well, just like try it and see how it goes. It works. It works. Now what I have to do is just layer the other petals on. 3 left. So I need to finagle with this a little bit more. But it looks really good.
As I pointed out before, I noticed that I had made a mistake in the positioning of the vines. It didn't end up being too horrible, and I was able to safely transfer them back to their original positions. I wanted to make sure the edges were glued together securely, so I was just adding some additional glue around the edges between layers, and then I layered on the tulle. I think I might have added a tiny bit of the Elina's glue. Then I just trimmed the excess, and I used a lighter to go around the edges. I actually wouldn't recommend this method because after doing all 14 of them, it definitely impacted the feeling in my thumb. So now it was time to attach the petals and the leaves securely. I went back and forth with this a lot because I wanted to make sure I didn't mess anything up. Something else I want to mention is the little bendable notch at the bottom of the zip tie is where I folded the petal to the bodice. For example, like this. this might not be entirely necessary, it's just the way I did it, I would recommend experimenting with your own methods. I went back and forth with this quite a bit, making sure I layered the petals correctly. After I pinned them, I tried it on, made sure I liked it, and then I unpinned all the petals, left the leaves pinned, and then I glued the leaves first, and then I went back to reattaching the petals and gluing the petals. I just used hot glue for this, and I repeated that pinning, trying on, gluing, repinning, taking it out for a very long time until I was satisfied with how it looked.
I am so tired right now that I'm having trouble appreciating this. I'm relatively satisfied with it. I'm so tired. Sorry, I'm not complaining. I'm just really... I'm tired.
Mysteriously, I had misplaced the petals that made up the last layer of her skirt, completely forgetting the exact number that I made. I thought I had messed up. I needed to make more petals, and then lo and behold, I found them in a pile of pink fabric for another Barbie dress. Well, needless to say, I felt rather silly. I don't know what they were doing there. My mind is completely blank on that.
Way better. And now for the back, I need to attach it with a snap or some kind of hook and eye situation. I also cannot do the lacing by myself. It hurts my arms. I did kind of mess up how the petals were positioned. Like this one was supposed to go more like this, but it's a little far off. That's fine as long as it's relatively close to how I want it to be. That's what matters. So this is the whole point. That is the whole point. It moves.
I was relatively happy with how it turned out. However, the petals were still a little too flat, especially the ones in the back. I made another mistake, and I used some of that dark green tulle from the beginning of the video that I bought at Joann's, which was for something completely different. I took little bits of that and I put it between each petal, and I hot glued it. This was a very big mistake. I ended up ripping it out because you could see the dark green tulle between each petal. I was so angry with myself. So I ripped that out. Something else I decided to do was add a horsehair braid because the petals were falling in on themselves. This is probably because of the way that I glued the zip ties in there. So, test your own methods because I encountered issue after issue as I went. So anyway, if you decide to put horsehair braid in your petals, don't do it the way I did. Put it between the two layers of the petal. I couldn't do that because I already glued them together with the zip ties, as was previously seen. I still have yet to cover mine. It is very annoying when it catches on your clothes. And you remember when I said my choice of clear ribbon on the back of the bodice was a bad idea? Well, it would have been so much easier if I had just gone with this one in the first place. But, well, I just can't help but make things more difficult for myself. I also tried to do something pretty stupid and add little dots of hot glue to each little notch that I stitched. Well, they ended up falling off, so that was a total waste of glue and a waste of time. So I wouldn't recommend that.
And this is why it helps to, yep. Okay. The petal is slightly crooked in the back, and it makes me want to take it out. I don't know if I can do it without damaging something though. Oh, maybe I can. I cannot have a crooked... No. This is why I'm not going to sell it. Okay. And then the last petal. It's so funny. I kept misplacing the last petal. I couldn't find it.
And then I just replaced that green tulle, and I hope this part is very self-explanatory. 84 years. What a journey that's been, right? I'm very, a lot of things went wrong, and a lot of things went relatively okay. A lot of things still frustrate me, and I learned a lot. I think what I came out of this with was there's more than one ways to get something done.
I am so delirious right now.
I am so glad that the dress is done. More than anything, I would like to thank every single one of you that left such encouraging comments on my TikTok, because I can honestly say that if it was not for all of you, I would have given up. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me, for hanging out with me. I appreciate every single one of you. Yeah, I really love you guys, and I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Barbie commented on my video. That's amazing! That's excellent. That's cute, honey. Excellent. Congratulations. How many hours of costume work? Who is that? Elena, right? Elena. You know who I was actually thinking about?
Fairytopia.
The ponies flying in the air. The magic Pegasus, right?
That's very good, Jenny.
I suppose you might be wondering what happened with the fabric that sparked the whole idea. Coincidentally, I didn't end up using it at all.